get things started right off the bat. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 50 of the Whatnauts Captain's Log. Woo, 50. Can you believe that?
We're big. We are over the hill.
Yeah. Let's see. It's a weird 50 because Paul was still, he did the first 12 with us, and I think it was the 12th one where he announced he was stepping down and stuff like that. And I don't think I even, like, when we, like, shifted to the new website and put up all of our episodes on the new, like, Simplecast kind of thing, our hosting thing, I don't think I ever, or when we did the new RSS feeds, I don't think I ever posted the original 12.
Oh.
Or at least, like, the original, like, 11. I may have just started it off with, like, all right, well, Paul's stepping down, so we're going to be doing something new from now on, you know?
This is like the opening of Men in Black, where it starts with Agent K having to neuralize his old partner, and then Will Smith shows up.
Good stuff. Good stuff. This is episode 50 of the Captain's Log. Like I mentioned, my name is Kyle Springer, and that is Melissa Wilkinson on the other side of the computer screen.
I'm the Will Smith in this equation, I guess. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. The Will Smith of the Whatnauts. I like it. What have you been up to this week, Melissa?
I'm working 40 hours a week, which is a strange new world, but I have time to come home and, like, do things, like cook full meals.
Not in the sense that, like, you were part-time and now you're full-time. It was like you were extra full-time, and now you're just regular full-time.
Yeah, like, I would work as long as I could. Nobody ever made me. They're like, oh, don't stay late to finish anything. And I'm like, the thing still needs to get finished, so I'm gonna be here till 6:30, 7 o'clock. And they've capped it, like, okay, guys, really, you have to stop at 40. So now I come home at a decent hour. I leave at a decent hour, too. I'm not, like, trying to get there at 7 a.m. and work until 7 p.m. or anything anymore.
Oh, man.
I have time now.
You're sleeping in a little bit more.
Slightly, yeah. Or I go in about the same time I used to, and I leave work at, like, 4.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I have had time to watch TV for myself and not explicitly for podcast homework.
You've come home from work. You are now the Will Smith of the Whatnauts. You can do all sorts of things. You can stretch your legs, you can count by twos and tie your shoes, and
I can go to the gym. I can make an entire dinner, go to the gym, and watch, like, 2 Gilmore Girls in one night now.
That was always the thing, like, when we were figuring out what time we would record and stuff like that, I'm always like, okay, give yourself enough time to, like, get home and do that stuff. Like, I don't want to make you rush unless that's the only option. And there were a number of times where you're like, sorry, I'm late. I've been doing this and that. I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? Like,
it was always cooking, because, like, the recipe card says we'll take 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, 30 minutes. And because I'm new at it and, like, I'm still, that's 30 minutes according to a finessed, trained chef who does this stuff like they're breathing. It's not for me where it's like, okay, garlic. How do I chop this? Very carefully, I guess, because it's small. Chop, chop, chop. And that's why it would always take me so long. Cause I'm like, I was banking on the 30 minutes and I'm not at that pro level yet. This is like a 45, 50-minute dinner for me.
You'll
also,
get there
I have a very
old
and ineffective oven and stove combo. They do the job, but, like, you got to give them a while to heat up.
I've noticed that with so I mean the oven stove top thing we have is not an old one, but it's a different one from the one that I'm used to or was used to in my old apartment, and it heats up very slowly, or it won't, like, it'll take water forever to boil unless it's on the
Yes.
absolute like
Yes.
highest thing that it can do. If it's on 8,
The
which is
most
like
hot.
it's like it goes 6, 7, 8 high, and if it's on 8, it takes forever. But if it's on high, and then it's like, okay, it at least is getting there, and I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. That's good. I'm glad you get some more time to spend on whatever you want.
I feel alive, yes, and I've got more time for wedding prep.
Yes, you're going to be in the wedding that's coming up.
No,
Correct?
Kyle, I have a secret husband. I've never told you about it.
Dun dun dun.
Yes, I am in the wedding. I am a bridesmaid.
Yeah. There you go. So that means you have some stuff to prepare for. You have to be at the rehearsals and all of that stuff. So that'll be good.
I've been trying to plan a bachelorette party, which is I was added to the party late. I've only been a part of the bridal party like 2 months.
And you're already a part of the party planning committee.
Well, it was the maid of honor's job, and she just hasn't been like super responsive, and she's been a little flaky about it. It's like, okay, somebody has to do the research. Somebody has to have some kind of a plan. Even on the night of, we like throw it out the window and do something else. At least there was a plan.
Yeah.
So I spent a while last night doing casino research.
Casinos?
Yeah, I stacked up our local casinos, compared them against each other. What are the perks? What have we got?
Is St. Louis a big gambling city?
I would say so, in that to name the amount of casinos we have, I would need both hands.
Okay.
Oh, and like we're on the river. We're like it's the river that divides the state, so we've got ours, and then we've got the ones on the Illinois side.
Are there any Native American like reservations and stuff?
No, not around here. There may be, at the other end of the state, but not here that I am aware.
I'm asking that because I've lived on the East Coast my whole life.
Yes.
Mainly in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and stuff like that. Right now I'm down in Richmond, and there are like no casinos in sight that I know of. I don't think I've ever seen one here anywhere on the East Coast. But I have family out west, and I've been to like spots up in Seattle and Montana and Wyoming, and they're everywhere.
I think it's different all over the place. I think they are mostly for Vegas, Atlantic City, American Indian reservations, and places on water. Like I think riverfronts get them because it's like a tangible area where you can kind of build them on the water, and like taxes and regulations are different. I could not imagine not growing up around casinos, because I grew up with the jingle for Casino Queen, home of the loosest slots. It's just a big riverboat casino down there by the arch.
Never heard of it. Yeah, that's straight. It was just one of those things like, oh yeah, casinos are a thing.
These, yes.
I've heard of these casinos.
There's this massive casino hotel spa called the Ameristar. And this is in St. Charles, which is one of the major areas around St. Louis. And this is where I went to college. It's this huge building, and it dominates the skyline out there. Like there's nothing around for miles as tall as this casino hotel is. It's amazing how far, because St. Louis and like Missouri as a whole is very hilly. When people think of the Midwest, they think of those flat plains. Yeah. That's not where we are. It's very hilly. So it is amazing from how far away you still see this giant casino on the horizon, just like at different levels of elevation.
Interesting.
It's almost like the big iron that looms over the town in FLCL.
Yes.
We got this casino. So I'm hoping we can go there because it's big and it's fancy. And I looked it up. I checked out their cocktail menu. They have good, fun, like cheap cocktails for like $8, one of those good deals. They also, because they are a hotel, like a huge hotel also, they have a huge arcade which is where like the kids play while mom and dad are doing
That's where
adult
I would be.
things. Exactly. It's like, guys, we need to go here because then we can
Move
gamble if we
over,
want,
kid.
we can drink if we want, and we can play skee ball for prizes if we want.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Washington, D.C. had a weird law, and you reminded me of this, of just this like dominating skyline thing. Apparently, and I forget which building it is. It might be the Capitol, but there's not allowed to be a building that is taller than the Capitol in Washington, D.C. or some building. There's one that's like, this is the standard. It can be the same height or below, which is why you don't have skyscrapers in D.C. and stuff like that. And you reminded me of that, and that's the useless factoid of the day. There you go.
I know this is more of my Disney parks fun facts coming out. There's some like FAA regulation saying like a structure above X amount of feet, like I think it's like 190 feet or something like that. If it's above that, you have to have a little red blinking light on top to signal like low flying aircraft, which is why everything in Disney World is like 6 inches below that height, because they don't want to break like the theming and the immersiveness by sticking like a blinking red light on top of the Hollywood Tower of Terror or Mount Everest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. So I've been dealing something with this week. This might be a little TMI, but my ear is clogged. This one, I can't hear a thing out of this ear.
That's not good.
It is not good. No, it's happened to me once or twice. It's never been a problem though, in the sense of like I've had to go see a doctor about it or stuff like this, because it usually just clears up in a day or so. But yeah, it's been like 2 or 3 days now, and I can't. It's not going away.
This happened to a friend of mine, and he said I think he went to just like a Walgreens clinic or something like that, and they have like an earwax flushing thing. Yeah, and he's like, it worked immediately. I could hear perfectly fine after that, and I had no idea what it was.
So there's a couple like home natural remedies you can use.
I think I've seen these things.
You can use olive oil or some kind of like mineral oil.
But from Olive's a mineral.
Yeah. It said you could use olive oil, okay? But that, from what I understood, that seemed to be more of like a lubrication, just to like, hey, maybe we'll lube it up and see if things slip and fall out, you know? And so I tried that, and I've had no luck with that. And so today I did buy the like ear drops thing, and I tried that, and it didn't really seem to work any different than the olive oil stuff yet. But it's one of those things. It's like do it 2 times a day for up to like 3 days or so. It's like, all right, that was the first one. We'll see what happens later on, stuff like that. So
this happened to my.
It's just it's so different, like going out in the world. That's what you would think. Like I can see if it was more problematic, like if I did actually feel like I had something wrong with my ear, but besides like, hey, there might just be a lot of earwax in there. I feel like you would have your equilibrium off, or you would have your balance off, or you would get dizzy or something. Thankfully, I've not had that.
That's good.
Yeah. But it is weird to like have both headphones in or something, and it's just like I can only hear that one. I can't hear any of my coworkers on that side. That's kind of nice, but you know. But it's when just like, it's so weird.
When this happened to my friend, it was like he had already made plans to go to the movies, and his hearing was like so rough, like he could hardly hear anything. So he goes to the movie. So he's like, well, I guess I'm just going to keep my plans and just find out what their hearing assist devices are like. So he
Interesting.
so he went to see Wonder Woman
Maybe
with
I should go see Detective Pikachu like that with a hearing device.
I don't know, and I forget what he said
a
it
big
was.
megaphone.
I know there's different options. Oh, like I think some of it, it's like you wear these glasses or you have like a little no, it's like a screen you have in front of your face. It's like a plexiglass panel
Mm-hmm.
on like, a little arm, like, our mic arms or something, or like a little stand like a that you
Yeah.
put a sheet of music on. One sheet of music, if you're playing a real simple piece,
Mm-hmm.
just one. It's like a stand with a plexiglass panel on it, and you angle that in front of your face. And they have a little screen at the back by the projector that is the text of the captions on it. And it's only if you like have this panel and you angle it at the right way that it catches the reflection of those.
Wow.
And then it kind of puts the captions over the screen for you.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. You might have to do that if this doesn't clear up.
That seems it's an awesome concept. I feel like that's a lot of work though, to like angle the reflection just right so it fits on screen and it
I have
it shoots
Yeah,
the
I just saw like a diagram of this. I've not seen this in
figure
real
one.
life. Yeah, I learned about this. I was watching a video about how closed captioning works. And at the
Yeah.
end of the video, and it was like, and there's kind of also a closed captioning in a movie theater. This is how it goes. And it's just the diagram and the guy explaining it to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, closed captioning is a fascinating history.
The only I don't know if it's still a thing or if the technology has gotten any better, but obviously I have a speech impediment and I stutter. I remember when I was in speech therapy, my therapist told me about this device. It was basically like a hearing aid.
Uh-huh.
But I think at the time it was like, this is like super expensive. If your parents are rich, they could get this for you. And apparently what it did is you stuck it in your ear and it was like a microphone and a speaker at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And it would repeat back to you what you say at the exact same time that you're like, just like milliseconds off, right? Like a lot of headphones and I guess not headphones, but you can do the call it, the like feedback. So like right now I could do it so it's like I can hear myself in my headphones, that kind of thing, and it's supposed to help with stuttering, and it actually does.
Neat. There was a trend like 6 or 7 years ago of something called like these speech
Monitoring, that's what it's called.
Yeah, there was a trend a couple years ago of these like speech zapper apps. Do you remember this?
Yes, I remember. I think I in my like rewatch of old Rooster Teeth podcast, they were talking about it on one thing, but I that's the only thing that I've heard of it. I don't remember
these apps you could download. I don't remember it being like one app. It's something like, the charades game or a QR scanner where it's like there's 24 variations of that thing. But the thing about the speech zapper is that it would record your voice or stream your voice, I guess. It didn't store a recording. It would stream your voice and you plug your headphone in and you'd listen to yourself in the headphones, and you're listening to yourself at like a half-second delay.
Yeah.
And it really disorients you.
I can attest to that. I didn't even need the speech app thing. Just making this podcast, I used to have I have monitoring on right now in GarageBand, so I can just barely hear myself in my headphones, but I turn it down. That I turn down that volume, especially because I don't want the mic to pick it up. But I used to have it on a little bit louder, and I remember my old computer sometimes would just spaz out and it would it would play it back to me like half a second switch to a second later on, and it would always be so jarring just to be like, wait,
yes.
I just completely forgot what I was about to say. I can hear myself,
exactly.
but it's just like, what is that? I don't like this.
And so what this, and the speech zapper was like, I thought it in the world it was designed to do, but the effect of it was that you would listen to yourself, and as you tried to keep talking, your voice, like your brain and your voice, like it's so discombobulated, it doesn't know what to do, so you trip and fumble over all of these words. And it was like something my friends and I did a couple times when we were bored. Like we'd put it on, and then somebody would hand me like, here, read the back of this, like just read something, like a solid like couple paragraphs of something, and try to plow through it as much as you can. And you're just like in this weird like audio haze just trying to finish this thing, and your friends are hearing you like trip and fumble over everything, and it's hysterical, and it's so weird. And then like you just flip a switch, and like your brain forgets how to do this very basic thing you've learned how to do your whole life. And I remember it being like an absolute riot the couple times we did it. And then I'm like, this is kind of like creating an artificial stutter for yourself. And I don't know if this is like appropriate. I don't know how people would with real stutters would feel about this. Maybe I should stop. It was like a party game we played a handful of times.
You're worrying too much, I think, on that one.
And it was never like a news item like people with real stutters are mad about speech zapper apps. I'm like, they could be. I don't know.
It's like, it's one of those. It's not an optical illusion,
it's an auditory illusion.
It's an auditory one where it kind of messes you up. It's like, whoa, what is happening?
Yeah, and it's fun, and it's one of those like kind of fun body tricks.
Yeah,
like the things you do when you're a kid, where it's like, can you touch your tongue to your elbow or something like that? Yeah. It's like one of those kind of things. And I think that is why it was fun. And just like hearing your friends completely demolish words.
Yeah.
Like I remember, one of my friends gave me like, here's the back of the DVD box for Avengers. That will also place this in time for you. Avengers the First had just come out on DVD. And I remember trying to pronounce Mark Ruffalo. And my friends told me, yeah, you said Mark Ruvalov. So that's
Mark Ruvalov.
So that's what we called him for a while. And then one of my friend's moms was trying to remember his name. She's trying to remember the name
Mark Ruvalov, or whatever you said his name was.
She didn't even know this joke. She's trying to remember the name Mark Ruffalo. And her brain mixes him up with Paul Giamatti, but she doesn't even get that name right. So she's like, what's that guy? Paul Gravolo?
Paul Gravolo?
So that's a name that comes up between us frequently.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah, I'm really excited to see what Paul Gravolo is going to be doing in Endgame.
Speaking of Avengers Endgame,
yes.
Did you see that James Cameron put out this little tweet thing acknowledging the success of Endgame?
I did see that. You put that in our link of possible discussion topics, and I saw that it was just like, James Cameron acknowledges Avengers. I'm like, okay, why is this, like, that's nice. Is this a talking point? And then I click on it, and it's like, oh, he didn't just tweet a couple nice sentences. Like, he or somebody in his crew, like, took the time to make a little graphic. I'm like, that's sweet that you took the time to actually go to Photoshop or Illustrator with this.
Makes me wonder if it was actually him that tweeted it out, but I guess that's hearsay. Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, who knows what he gets? It's like he has so many skills. Maybe he personally sat down to the Adobe Creative Suite and made that thing.
Because this is another thing. He's been one of the directors like actively vocal against comic book movies, superhero movies, all of like he's spoken about how he thinks like Wonder Woman is stupid, and it's like, I'm just like, what? You're old, dude. Thank you for doing what you've done, but let's like, you're just so off base here. It's like, what is?
That's kind of perplexing because he is a franchise man. This is the guy who created like, well, he didn't create it. It's not
he's
his
made
thing.
some of the biggest
I mean, he
blockbusters along with
helmed.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, he helmed like Terminator and
Yeah.
Terminator 2 and Terminator the Universal Studios theme park ride, which I've heard is also very good. It's almost like, Terminator 2.5. Really good cap onto the James Cameron series of Terminators. And then Avatar is the whole thing.
Yeah. To be more specific, I think his comments on Wonder Woman were more to the effect of something about her being like a strong female character, stuff like that, and how he just it. So I forget exactly what he said, but he didn't like it, and it was just like, you don't say that. You're digging your own grave here. That is not a good look.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was some good comments and stuff like that, and then you have Steven Spielberg, who's like, yes, Netflix movies shouldn't win the Oscars and all of this stuff because they're not actually movies and stuff. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, this, you guys, okay. You guys might need to go sit in the corner for a little bit here.
I think Steven Spielberg's thing was that he thought like Netflix, not that it's like not art, he's like, it's real art. I think that counts as TV. That counts as a TV movie, not a movie. Movies are for theaters and a real like in-person cinematic experience, which is
still
a very small distinction to make.
Don't do that to yourself, dude. Who was it? There was another thing I saw on Twitter last week, not from a director. Oh, it was from Lizzo, the musical artist. I think she just put out a new album, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't keep up with her. I couldn't name any of her songs.
I have found one song by hers that I've quite liked. And that's not to say I like it and I don't like the others. I just like that song so much. I keep listening to that, and I've yet to like click on view artist.
There you
rest
go.
of albums.
But I guess someone I follow must have retweeted it or liked it or something, and so it showed up on my feed. But she was saying something along the lines of only people who have partaken in like that certain style of art should be allowed to critique that style of art. So like, hey, if you are a music reviewer and you review albums, you should not be reviewing albums or music if you don't also make music and stuff like that. And everyone was like, oh, you don't want to say that. That's a bad look. Don't do that. Don't say that, And it's just like, what? Thinking why
yeah. I think there is something for like
it's helpful to have experience,
but I think there's something to say for like, don't complain unless you know you can do a better job, which is something I think about a lot. Like, I don't know. Like, I am soft with my criticism. I am soft about it. To get me to say the word dislike, you have to have like two keys that you put in two holes at the same time and two different guys turn them.
One day.
Like the way you like open up a nuclear bomb, those kind of protocols have to be unlocked for me to say like, I disliked this. I'm very gentle. But even when I'm like, I think the pacing was kind of weird, and I think that scene went on a little bit too long, and that character's arc didn't quite come together. I'm like,
I think,
could you do it better? Could you do it better, though?
Being able to say stuff like that and recognize, like, hey, this tone is off. The character development here didn't pay off, or stuff like that. Those are all valid critiques and are a lot more than what people are, just like the average person is gonna say, where they're like, oh, it was dope, it was hot, dude, it's lit, it's fire, whatever. I don't know. And it's just like, okay, but why? Or they'll be like, oh, this was garbage, it was so bad, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Okay, but why was it that bad?
Yes.
So I think there's this weird thing with like, there's a lot of people out there who will say something is good or bad, but then won't quantify it or won't say why, right? But then on the opposite side, I think there's a lot of people who will be like, oh, well, it could have, like, this might not have worked, or this might not have paid off, but this thing was fantastic. But then they don't say, oh, it was good or it was bad. Like you, I feel like you're right in that middle section there, where it's just like, yeah, I can talk about what worked and what didn't work, but you don't like being like, this was bad, this was not good, or, you know. Whereas I like
to think of me doing such a thing haunts me.
Like I want to do both, because I want people who aren't necessarily interested in the like granular, like, okay, well, here's what didn't work, and in this one scene he said this thing, but that doesn't match up with his character development and stuff like that. Like, there's some people out there who just don't care about that stuff as much, and just like, hey, was it good or bad? Should I waste my time, or is it worth it? You know, so they want and need that. It was good, go watch it, or go read this book. And there's some like, okay, it was good, but why did you think it was good? Because maybe you liked this one movie, but I hated it, so I don't know if our interests align here, you know. So that's why I personally want that both thing. But this old James Cameron thing, we got off on a bit of a tangent there.
Yeah, you put a couple like pop culture news items in the list. This is our 50th episode. I want to make it big. I don't want it to just be like news of the week, like it's any other week.
Jump around and do whatever we want.
Let's I want some centerpieces.
No,
I've got some stories. I've got like a story in my back pocket. Like, okay, if we ever have like a slow week, I can pull this out. And I'm like, no, it's the 50th one. Pull it out now.
Hell yeah. Talk to me.
No, we can get through the pop culture stuff. Just like, let's make it snappy, Kyle. Let's not talk about a trailer for longer than the length of the actual trailer. This is our challenge.
I don't know, man. Let's see. So let's do, keeping in the Marvel wheelhouse then, how about that new Spider-Man trailer? What'd you think?
It looks good. It's very raw and emotional. Peter, very clearly in the first shot you see him, he's just been crying, and that hurts my soul because he is our boy. I like that Maria Hill is in it. You don't see her in enough stuff. Good to see Maria again. No Aunt May in this one. Exactly as I told you before, Kyle, I am barreling through every thought I had about this movie. No Aunt May in it, like in the first trailer. Okay, understandable. Aunt May's a personal favorite of mine.
What if Aunt May did not get dusted? So she's 5 years older now. Interesting. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and when you're an adult, like an adult, I think you can age 5 years, and it does not play a very clear difference on your face because you're not a young growing person.
Yeah. I mean, she might have gray hair now. Aunt May might be old.
That was a nonsense sentence I just said, but I'm like just getting the point where I'm old enough that, oh, I'm starting to look the same just about all the time now. I feel like after age like 24, you like hit a long plateau for several decades.
See, I feel like I've been like that most of my life. If you look at pictures of me from like first grade, I look the exact same basically.
So except for piercings and scruff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're a big 7-year-old.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Like more recently, I haven't been getting buzz cuts like I do. One of my roommates is a barber, so he's been doing my haircuts. But I used to just do a buzz cut, and that's what I did forever. Like all through college, all of that stuff. That's the only thing I
you gotta be more dynamic than that.
I hated it. I was just like, I hate my hair. I'm just gonna buzz it all off. So that's what I did. And so like I always looked the exact same. It was really funny.
I know you told me a story that there's like a picture your parents have up in their house of like a younger photo of you, and like you were coming to visit and they told one of their friends like, "Oh,
Oh,
Kyle's coming to
yeah.
visit." And then their friend was like, "Oh, he is an adult. I thought he was the same age he was in the picture."
Yeah, I just don't know if my parents communicated how old I was to them. So when they went to my parents' house to like
13-year-old son out living on his own.
yeah, I I don't know, or if she thought that was like a college team or something, or who knows what. I mean, I looked really young there because I was a sophomore in high school when that picture was taken. But yeah, like she saw me, and here I was, this like 28-year-old man, and she's thinking I'm some like 17-year-old kid.
Vacation days from my job
some
to
like
be here.
16-year-old kid. Yeah. She goes, "Oh, you're a lot older than I thought you were gonna be." I was just like, how old did you think I was going to be?
This is all to say, like, 5 years, a big difference when you're around Peter's age, less time when you're around May's age.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home looks very cool. I'm interested to see the progression of his relationship with MJ, because it was super, like, casual and friendly in the first movie, and it seems like they're really going for the romance here. So I'm in, like, the trailer is playing it up, of course, but I'm interested to see how from like beginning of the movie to end of the movie, how that grows.
What do you think of Mysterio?
I'm intrigued by Mysterio. I've read a graphic novel that features Mysterio, but it's not a Spider-Man graphic novel.
Interesting. Was it Daredevil or something?
Oh, dang, you guessed it.
If it wasn't him, it was another one of the like street level.
Yeah, you could have
and so
just
it was
kept naming street level New York people, and you would have gotten it. No, it's a graphic novel where it's kind of surprising that it is Mysterio and Daredevil together, and Daredevil's trying to figure this thing out all around him this whole time, and then he's like, "Mysterio, you you're not going after Spider-Man? Like, do we have a vendetta I'm not aware of?"
He's like, "We live in the same neighborhood. I was gonna fight you eventually."
Yeah, so the fact specifically that it is those two fighting each other is like a twist in the story. So I didn't want to blow it in case I pitch it in the future and we read it, and I wanted you to be surprised.
Well, I still don't know what one it is, and there's a ton of Daredevil graphic novels, so but yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Mysterio on the thing, because he mentions that he's from another dimension.
Yeah. So
which could potentially relate to Endgame, but that's the thing. Mysterio is all about lying and illusions and stuff like that. But I also am wondering if Marvel is playing off of people's expectations.
Exactly. Or they're playing off of people's expectations that they will play off their expectations.
Yeah.
You can ping pong back and forth about this forever until this comes out in July.
Exactly. That could be true, what he said, and that is not the lie that we will eventually see in the movie, or the big twist, or whatever it is, you know. Who knows? But I'm not going to decide what I think is true one way or another.
This sounds fun. I am excited for like a real head trip of a movie. It's something you can rely on way too hard and just make your whole movie like twists, like all style and no substance. But this series has proven to have real substance. Like, so I do want to see it play around with that. Like,
had a big twist, and that like it wasn't even meant to be like a psychological thriller type of thing. It was just like when you find out what it is, you're just like, oh man, oh goodness, that's a doozy. But yeah, it's not meant to be like the M. Night Shyamalan. What is really happening here? Like what's going on?
And like if you told somebody that twist going in, like it ruins nothing. This wasn't anything people were trying to hide from people who didn't see the movie. It is just it's very effective no matter what, but it's extra effective if you are learning this at the same time Peter learns it.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Melissa, have you read Watchmen?
I have. I read Watchmen in high school.
Okay.
So that was 10 years ago. Kyle, 10 years? One whole American decade ago.
It's been a little while since I've read Watchmen. I should go back and read it again because it's fantastic. But HBO is doing an adaptation of Watchmen, and I don't remember if they are. I remember it's like it's Watchmen, but it's updated somehow, and I don't know if it's a continuation or if it's just modernized or
Based
whatnot.
Based on the trailer, it looks like a continuation.
It looked a little bit like a continuation and stuff like that, but could be interesting. I don't remember exactly how it plays in and fits in, but have you seen the trailer for that?
I did watch the trailer.
Yeah. What do you think? Is that something you're up for? Does it look good to you? Is that something you wouldn't watch? Not interested in?
I'll check it out. I don't know if that'll be something where I like follow it like, oh, it premieres today, I gotta see it. It
might be a little more apathetic.
If it comes out, like I will definitely see it, but that, I'm not gonna see it opening weekend. I'm not gonna wait for rental. I'll see it probably after a month after it's out. And to use a theatrical metaphor here for a TV show, of course, but I will see it probably this calendar year, but probably not immediately.
I'm wondering if this is going to be HBO's newest premiere show. So I think they were hoping for it to be a Westworld and this eventually when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I hear, season 2 of Westworld didn't go over so well with a lot of people. But yeah, just I'm wondering, because now that Game of Thrones is wrapping up, what their plans are for stuff down the road. But I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I remember I have not read or watched Watchmen, I think, since high school. It's something I'm due to revisit. I remember really liking it. What I loved about it was I think it's remembered well for the themes of it and the metaphors of it and the messages of it. I love the thing for its formatting and its structure. I loved the way the graphic novel was structured out, where there's
grid.
Not like that artistic level, but every chapter ended with a piece of supplementary material. Here is a letter to the editor of an ornithology journal that the original Night Owl wrote. And you just sort of get a little bit from that, and the way that pirate comic was
building,
exactly the way they structured out the world building and the character depth, and little things that just seemed like a fun bonus would be really important later on, on a crunchy narrative level like that. I really enjoyed it.
Interesting.
So I would be
noted. I might have something to pitch down the road on the review show that does something similar.
Yeah, I would be excited if the TV show played with things like that, like what the graphic novel does with the supplementary material around the actual Watchmen narrative. I'd like to see a show do something like that too.
Well, it's interesting because a couple years ago, DC published some comics called Before Watchmen.
Yes.
And it was basically prequels of all of this stuff. I'd never read them. I don't remember if anything really significant happened or how well it was received, but I remember at the time it was one of those big things of do they really need to do this? Watchmen was perfect by itself. Do they really need all this supplementary material? But I don't remember how it was received.
I have a friend who really loves Watchmen, and she goes to the store and picks up every Watchmen supplementary prequel, same universe, all of the related titles.
There you go.
So at least she likes it.
On the other side of the coin, DC is also publishing I guess you could call it an event book. I think it's taking place in the future of the DC universe, where everything is at right now, called Doomsday Clock. And it's kind of this like melding of the Watchmen universe and the DC universe. And it's been fantastic, but it keeps getting delayed and new issues come out few and far between and stuff like that. But that also kind of gives like hints as to what happened after the events of Watchmen, because we get to see both the universes and like, okay, well, what I think it at one point picks up in like the early 90s in the Watchmen universe, and it's like, okay, what has happened over the past like 5 or 6 years, so who knows, there could be some interesting stuff in this show. I'm excited for it.
Kyle,
yes.
Have you ever seen, there's an episode of Simpsons where, the comic book shop in The Simpsons? Do you know that much? A rival comic book shop opens up, and it's like a cool, modern, hipster comic book shop.
Okay.
Not super pretentious on its own, but just in comparison to, comic book guy, where like greasy old comic book guy has his nerd hoard over there. This is like the shiny, clean, like hip version of that.
Okay.
And they have a signing with some famous comic artists in this episode who are all, I believe, voiced by themselves. So it's Alan Moore playing himself in The Simpsons. It is the creator of Mouse and another guy. They're all like the last time I caught it, I'm like, oh, those are all like legit real comic stars that they have gotten. And there's some joke that like Watchmen has become something big and overproduced and over merchandised, and Milhouse is like, Alan Moore, I really liked Watchmen babies, and he holds up like a poster of the Watchmen as these cute babies, and it says Watchmen babies in V for vacation.
So I looked it up on Google, and it was Alan Moore, Art Spiegelman, and Dan Klaus, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm not familiar with him, though.
That name sounds familiar, and I think whatever it was... Oh, did he do Ghost World? Was that it?
Let's see. I believe so.
Like, whatever title they referenced in relation to him was something big.
Yeah. Let's see. Dan Klaus.
Kyle, I'm so excited for all of The Simpsons. I'm excited for all of The Simpsons to be on Disney Plus, so I can point you directly here, Kyle.
Do this stuff. Go watch it.
This one old episode of Simpsons I am talking about. Here you go. Fill yourself in.
Plagiarism by Shia LaBeouf. This is on the Daniel Klaus Wikipedia page. In December 2013, Shia LaBeouf's short film Howard Cantor.com, I believe howardcantor.com became available online. Soon thereafter, those familiar with indie comics noticed its remarkable resemblance to Justin M. Dimino. I believe that Dynamo? I don't know. A comic by Klaus contributed to the 2008 charity anthology The Book of Other People. The short film was then removed by LaBeouf, who claimed that he was not copying Klaus, but rather was inspired by him, and got lost in the creative process. Okay, we'll skip that, 'cause that's funny. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his work. Moving on, so we can just get done with this last bit of
our last piece of pop culture news.
Let's talk about all of the delays and the new Star Wars films and stuff like that. New Mutants got delayed. You messaged me because a while back, I think it was on this show.
We were talking. No, I think we were talking about like future superhero movies that were coming out. Like, what does just the rest of the year in movies look like? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think New Mutants is like a fall, like late summer, early fall
And I was like, that
release.
movie's not like that. Who knows if that movie's ever gonna
I
come out?
swear, like fairly recently, it was like somewhere in the August, September, October range. They're like, yep, it's then.
Yeah, because it had to do research. I mean, not. I mean, sure, they had to do research, but it had to do reshoots. And I know it got delayed at one point, but yeah, apparently it's gotten delayed yet again.
This baffles
They
me
filmed it
because
like a year and a half ago, like 2 years ago.
I remember seeing a teaser for this
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think I saw the teaser for this a year and a half ago. A while. I'm kind of baffled because based on that teaser, it looked pretty good. And like you hear about this being done with like
It's gonna be a horror film.
you hear about like shelving being done with movies that are very bad or movies that hit like very awkward times. Like there's something in the movie that is too close to like a real world disaster, so they shelve it for a while or something
Yeah.
like that. I It rarely happens with movies that are pretty good. And this seems fine. It doesn't seem like a knockout of the park, but it seems perfectly suitable as a superhero movie and
It
as
looked
a
awesome.
horror movie.
I, I
Yeah.
think I
And
think
so I don't
in
know what's happening to it.
I think in some of those reshoots they even added a new character.
Huh.
Like I think that's what I remember hearing. This is all just hearsay and stuff like that. But yeah, that got delayed again. I think at least 2020 is what it said. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
now
like
it's
that,
due
somewhere
for
in
like
2020.
April or something.
Sometime next year. Hopefully
Here
it comes out. But Gambit, the other X-Men related film, is officially dead.
I think now is the wrong
Thank God.
time for Gambit.
I don't think it ever was gonna be a good time. Well, when the original X-Men movies were coming out, if they had the foresight to do like spin-offs and like start building their universe the way the MCU did, sure, I think it would have been a perfectly fine movie back then. It didn't strike me as one that would do well, especially with what's his name, Channing Tatum behind it. I don't feel like he would make a good Gambit.
He doesn't have the look or the he doesn't have the look or the physique of a Gambit, but I see how the spirit could be the same. And I would just love to hear him do that New Orleans accent. The thing about Gambit is that he's a big old flirt. That's Gambit fact 1. Fact 2 is the cards. Fact 3 is like that weird thing he puts on his head.
Yeah.
These are the 3 Gambit facts you need to know. He's such a big flirt, and that's an incredibly huge part of his character. And like that's one of those like fine line things where like if you put it in somebody's hands, it's like, okay, charming guy. And if you put it in somebody else's hands, it gets like a little skeevy. And so you have to play it exactly right, or else it's really gonna rub people the wrong way.
Which is why I think Deadpool worked out so well, which is a similar situation, because Ryan Reynolds was like, no, I want to be the one to get this movie made. I want to be the one to play Deadpool and do it right, which is the exact same thing that Channing Tatum was doing. But I can see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Like I like just being like, oh yeah, that would make sense. I can see him being that actor. When you say Gambit and Channing Tatum, I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't seem right.
I think he's got that kind of suave, charming. I think he could play the Gambit I would like to see, which is just the sort of fun, chill, like good-natured flirt, but also like can read people and is just an easygoing guy. And he could do.
He did.
Oh, well, I don't know if Gambit is a good candidate for a solo movie to begin with. I'm intrigued by him. I would like to see a Gambit in a movie.
You could do him with the Thieves Guild or however you say it.
I think
Thieves Guild.
I would like to see him on the screen. I think that he has to be like written and played very carefully. And I think he probably is a better ingredient in an ensemble film than he is a star of a solo film.
Potentially, yeah. Or I would even think, sure, you could get an interesting movie out of him. I don't know if you could get multiple without making it like a Rogue and Gambit movie.
That'd be nice.
Or
I think
something like that. Who knows?
However, X number of years down the road, like introduce them in a group setting, see how it goes. Maybe then. Maybe 12 years from now will be the year of the Gambit movie.
Yep, who knows? Also, speaking of James Cameron, like we talked about earlier on, the Avatar sequels got delayed yet again.
This is
There's like 7 of them. 7 sequels. Of our life
now. And the thing is that you were absolutely like, of course they're going to happen. Like Avatar is at least.
I really don't want them to. I mean, I know at least one more will happen.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want it to flop.
Why do you feel such vindictiveness towards these nice blue people?
I don't think that movie is as good as people remember it being.
I think that's the way everybody thinks. The thing with Avatar is that I think everybody went out to see it because of the spectacle of it. And people loved it for the spectacle. And I think there's a small fraction of people that genuinely loved it and really got into the world of Avatar. But I think for everybody else, it was like, oh, that seems fun. I'll go see that. Seems like a good time on the big screen. And it was just the general, like, mid-level appealingness of it that made it that big, because it was a movie everybody, like just about everybody would say, yeah, seems like a fun 2.5 hours in the theater on the big screen with the fancy special effects.
I don't know if it was the like middling appeal though, because it was also the restart of, hey, we have this brand new 3D technology.
This is
gonna change everything.
Like, 3D films were hitting it big again.
Because he was, I don't know if he specifically, but I know like that movie was made to demonstrate that 3D. So it was more like a proof of concept or stuff like that. And so I think a lot of people went to go see it for that. And there's, hey, it's not the like red and blue glasses you get,
Exactly. I think people went to it as an experience, not as a movie, as a film.
Yeah. And so if that's the case, if these movies are more like, hey, we have this new technology thing, that's kind of why I'm assuming the next one will flop. Of just like, hey, the story wasn't actually all that good. You don't really have a new technology to show off. This is gonna be just average. This is just gonna be like, all right, who cares,
I don't think that's gonna equate to a flop, certainly. Because I think there are enough people that are curious about it and know that it will be pretty enough to make the theater ticket worth it.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I know it's one of those things that has been like pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, but like is still weirdly a certainty that it will happen because it has that money, because it has that super intense focus of James Cameron, and this is his passion project.
Yeah.
And it'll take forever, but it's not going to fade away. Like, this is going to happen. I don't know if there's ever been anything else that keeps getting pushed back like this, but is also still a certainty.
Yeah, well, at one point, Gambit.
Yeah, but that was something anybody could cancel at any time. Like,
and they
people
did
like Channing Tatum,
times.
people like X-Men. But like, this is like it, until, if Endgame is able to topple it. But if not, #1 movie in the world. Lots of people like the thing. And it's got one super successful, super focused, super skilled person behind it that is going to drive it into realization.
And just with all of the like misogynistic comments against like Wonder Woman and strong female characters, that's also why I'm just like, I hope this doesn't do well just so you get put in your place, stuff like that. But who knows? I think they're trying to position this so it will now be it will now alternate with Star Wars, which they just announced.
Sure.
3 new films.
Mm.
We don't know anything about them yet. This is one of the things that is really confusing to me. Because there was this that Disney announced. They just said, "Hey, after episode 9, we're gonna do 3 more Star Wars films," and they didn't give us any information except that it's not gonna be a part of the Skywalker saga. However, there was also that trilogy from Rian Johnson. Like, he announced that
I thought those were one and the same.
That's the thing. They haven't confirmed that these 3 that they announced were the 3 Rian Johnson ones that they announced like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, however long it's been. They've not been like, oh yeah, it's the exact same thing. Because why, like, if it was, why announce it again? Like, it's already been announced. And there was no new information with this. That seemed strange.
I think
we already knew that the Rian
wanted to do 3 movies. I think we'd heard it before, like, we'd like to do this. We're kind of working on this thing, but maybe this is them saying, now we put it on the calendar. Look, we do, like, we didn't just pencil it in, we used a pen this time.
That could be. And then there's also the there's this, like, we don't know what the Star Wars project is from D.B. Weiss and David Benioff. Because they're working on something.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones people. Who knows? Because they could be that. Like, hey, Game of Thrones is done. Move on to Star Wars. Make your stuff.
That sounds exhausting. You'd think after you made a whole Game of Thrones, you would just, like, take a gap year and go to a beach.
Well, the next Star Wars film isn't going to come out until 2022. I think is what these they're like, these 3 will start coming out in 2022 and will go every 2 years. So it'll be 22, 24, and 26. So I mean that, like, they would, I assume, take a good chunk of time off while the movie is being written and stuff like that. You know, they're figuring out casting and stuff like that, and then they'll come in and be like, all right, let's get to work. Who knows? But that's exciting. More Star Wars, because I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Cool. You have a story.
Okay, yes, I'm double checking. The pop culture gauntlet is done. I have to be honest, I like the storytelling thing we do so much better than running through a bunch of pop culture
tell
news.
Stories. There is no, like, we have to do it this way on this show. It's just like, hey, if this thing happened to me this week, I'm gonna talk about it. This is stuff that I saw this week, and
the narrative flow of the podcast, Kyle. You
can interrupt.
No,
anytime
no,
you want. Be
no.
like, hey, I have a story to tell.
No,
like, all right, tell
Kyle,
the story.
No, you don't put a dramatic story like this towards the front half, and then and then a trailer came out as the coda. No, this has to be, you have to block it. You have to block out like the last 20 minutes for this dang thing. The narrative flow of a podcast, Kyle. I can't interrupt you in the middle. These stories aren't the middle.
Okay. Melissa is putting her foot down.
Okay. So this is our 50th episode, and I've been wanting to tell this story for a while, and I'm like, well, this might take a long time. Let me save it for if we just have, like, a slow news week, or literally both of us went home and took naps and we have nothing to talk about that week.
I wish I got to go home and take naps.
Or, you know, one of those weeks where it's like, I saw the insides of my eyelids and The Office, Kyle, and nothing else.
So what's this story?
Okay. This is from a suburban night drive a friend of mine and I took about a year and a half ago. Picture this. It is a warm September night, I think. Like an August or a September. Warm, a little balmy. We're going to go just drive around that night with the windows down, play some music, talk, catch up, look at big, pretty houses.
Sure.
We are going towards the Jamestown area. This is the area I live in North County of St. Louis. This is norther. This is way up there. This is like the last thing between us and like the Missouri River cutting it off into Illinois. Extra north, the most north. And it's this area that is big, pretty country homes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like there's no real difference in the culture or anything like that. There's, it's the same school district I was in. They go to the same Target I went to. So it's not like a very fancy neighborhood. Like there's not a cultural difference. It's just bigger houses on big plots of land up there. Big, nice houses as opposed to my like 3-bedroom ranch, So anything bigger than that is automatically very fancy to me. So we're driving around, and this is getting into country.
Sure.
This is a country area. Yep. Like, you are 10, maybe 15 minutes drive away from the major thoroughfare, where the Target is. But there's so many trees, there's so many like dense thickets that you completely lose track of that. You forget where you are. What year is it? What part of the state are you in when you get all the way up there? And we find this little neighborhood called Jamestown Farms. Mm-hmm. And it is set all the way back there. And it's all of these big, nice houses around like one, like a couple different cul-de-sacs all around a ring. And it's this weird area in that it feels so secluded. It's like this little mini community just popped up out of nowhere in the middle of the woods. These big, nice houses. So my friend and I are going...
So you broke into one, right?
I'm a millionaire now, Kyle. So we're driving around and we go down this road and we're like, oh, this just turns into a roundabout. Well, we'll drive through the roundabout and back out again. Mm-hmm. And we're driving through the roundabout and we see this man in his yard. And it's getting around dusk. It's like where it's dark, but not dark enough to trigger any like porch lights or anything like that yet. So It's a little shadowy. We can't really see him. And we see this man in his yard as we're driving past. And this is like a tight little, roundabout. We're going slow. We are 15, 20 miles? Like a very normal, slow suburban speed we're going. And we see this man like waving at us and he stops us. And we're like, oh no, some rich person has finally yelled at us for driving past their house and looking too hard at it.
Dang kids coming looking at my house.
And it is this man, this slight gray-haired man. He's like in his 50s or whatever, gray hair, but fairly youthful face. He's wearing a bathrobe. He's holding a camcorder. There's a dog in the yard. No, so we think he was just like out there filming his dog doing something while we were driving up there because he's waving this camcorder. And it's not a massive, like over the shoulder, like the kind your dad had in 1994 camcorder, but it's not modern either. This is like a 2006 camcorder or something in just like 2017, like state of the art at its time, but you've not updated this thing since you got it, sir.
Sure.
So he's waving his hands at us, and so my friend's driving, and so I'm over here in the passenger seat, and this guy's on my friend's side. And so my friend rolls down the window, and he's like, "You guys were going kind of fast, and there's kids who live around here, and I was on my lawn, and you could have hit me, and we know we could not have hit him."
You were only going like 15.
We are going 25 miles per hour when it's mildly shadowy. We saw you were there, sir. Like, we weren't going to veer into
We saw you
from
3 blocks away that way.
But we're not going to argue with the guy. We're just like, oh, yeah, sorry, sir. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? This is a private drive. We're like, oh, we turned down it. We didn't know it was going to dead end. We're just continuing around, the circle, and we're going to go back out. And he's like, well, I want you guys to back up. Don't keep driving. Back up out of here. Go back
sir,
the way
it's a
you
roundabout.
came. Get out of our neighborhood. Yeah, instead of us like just driving in the circle, he's like, no, back up and get out of here this way. And he's accosting us. He is talking it about the way I am talking now. He's not yelling. He's not furious. He's just like concerned, busybody neighbor. That's who he is.
The neighborhood watch.
And he starts to tell us, I remember all of these fragments, and I have to make sure I arrange them in the right order. Again, there's a narrative order to this story, Kyle. And he says, I'm pretty nervous because there are these neighbors I have. Oh
no. So even before he lets you back up, he starts telling you about the neighborhood.
So he's telling us back up, get out of here, and then he stops and he tells us about the neighbors and about his house and how long he's lived in his house. Okay.
What the hell?
Okay. So this guy, he says, him and his wife bought this house, and then they were hired to do some sort of IT work for Fort Knox, and they had to leave and go live by Fort Knox for like a 2-year stint or whatever. And he says, then they came back, and the whole neighborhood had grown up around them. This whole neighborhood of 24 large houses, which is all it is altogether. So I don't know how much had grown in the 2 years since he had left. But he's like, I bought all of this land and, I bought this house, and then I come back and there's all these houses and all these neighbors around me. This is not a crowded area. Each one of these houses is on a big yard. Like from where you are, you can see 8 other houses, but it's not like you're looking down a row of house after house after house.
Yeah, it's not like your typical town houses where there's like 30 to 50 feet between each house, right? They're like, there's one on top of that hill, there's one on top of that hill.
He points at the house next to his. Like I said, these aren't mansions, but these are big houses. These are like, I don't know, 5-bed, 3-bath, like you probably have a living room and a formal dining room and a den, like bigger houses like that. He points at the house next to his and he says, I originally wanted to buy that and I wanted to build a barn, and inside the barn, I wanted to offer STEM classes to kids. I was going to buy a 3D printer. I was going to teach the kids how to 3D print. I was going to teach them astronomy and computer programming and Go. Have you guys played Go? It's like Japanese chess. It's fantastic. You guys should play Go.
Played Pokemon Go. Like I feel like I would be asking him like, where are the kids? Did someone else run them over? Is that why you're stopping us? That like you've seen it before and like
So this is what is happening with me and my friend. We were like kind of alarmed at first, like we're not really doing anything wrong. There's no signs outside this neighborhood saying like private, residents only. We're just like, oh, those look like big pretty houses. Let's go drive around and take a look at them. When this one guy comes out and we're like, oh, I don't think he's going to call the cops on us, but he looks upset and we feel kind of bad. We don't want to spook this guy. We are, innocent 20-somethings dreaming of owning a big house, driving around here. So we felt kind of bad and we're just like, oh, sorry, sir. We're just kind of sheepish. And he's talking to us and he keeps talking. I think he kept us there for 10 or 15 solid minutes talking at us. And it gets like about this point in where I'm like, oh, he's just going to keep going, isn't he? He's not even upset anymore. He just started telling us a thing about the neighborhood and has now gone off on a tirade of neighborhood stories. So it starts to So it starts to become absurd. And I'm sitting there like trying really hard not to start laughing. And my friend in the driver's seat, who's like 2 feet away from this guy, has to keep it completely
Straight-faced,
deadpan.
yeah.
Because I can like kind of slink back in my seat. You know, it's a little shadowy. I can like hold my water bottle up in front of my face. I can hide the fact that I'm starting to laugh. He can't. Sky talks about how he wanted to buy the big house, and then he comes back and he can't get the other second big house anymore to build a barn and teach kids how to use a 3D printer. And he says,
God
you know,
damn it, how dare they?
the local neighborhood authority, they want to give that house to a fraternity. The closest university, there's a community college not too far away, but a community college isn't going to have a fraternity. The closest university is like a solid 30, 40 minutes away from here. There is no way that is at all going to
Yeah.
be a frat house.
Not at
Nobody's
all.
picking a frat house in a sleepy, well-off suburban neighborhood ages away from any kind of university, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Weird.
And there were trees on that property. There were trees on that property, and then they came and cut them down. Those trees were so old, they were hundreds of years old. I was so upset about it, he says. So I just went out there, and I was standing there, just arms crossed, watching them cut down those trees.
In my bathrobe.
Yeah, exactly. He's spitefully standing there, arms crossed, in a bathrobe, like staring at these people cutting down the trees on this nice house that he wanted to buy and build a barn and put a 3D printer in the barn and also a telescope to teach the kids astronomy. Okay.
I like this guy.
Up the street, and he points vaguely in some direction away from us, there's 2 lawyers. I get the impression that it's like a husband and wife team of lawyers. And the lawyers are behind a lot of this. The lawyers are behind cutting down the trees and not letting this guy like put all the things in the property. Exactly. Through the Dickelberg to his, you know, Mr. Turner. And he's talking about these lawyers have Dobermans, big Dobermans. And he says, they really wanted to show off these Dobermans and show that they were good, safe dogs and they wouldn't hurt any of the kids and they weren't scary and they were well trained. So they paraded the Dobermans around the neighborhood. And the way he talked about it, it sounded like not just like, oh, they paraded them, but like, now we are going to walk the Dobermans. Come out and see. Pet the Dobermans.
Behold, y'all, Dobermans.
Look how safe the Dobermans are around babies. There might have been 2. In hindsight, I don't remember if he specified how many Dobermans. He might have just said plural, and I'm like, I guess 2. They're big dogs. You wouldn't have more than 2. But who knows how many Dobermans were being paraded around by these 2 lawyers. And so they're parading the Dobermans around, and he's mad about it for some reason. He's angry about the Dobermans. Maybe he's just, you know, spiteful towards whoever these lawyers are. So he like goes, you know, he walks up to the end of his little cul-de-sac and he probably looks out and he like shakes his head at the Dobermans and he goes walking back. And he's...
How did you guys like finally get away?
I'm not done. I'm not done yet. Oh. I think this is when he was watching the people cut down the trees and he was mad about it. At some point in his story, he mentions like standing in his yard watching one of his neighbors do something. Oh my God, the drone. The lawyers accused him of having a drone that he used to spy in Windows. He's like, I don't have a drone. I don't know what these lawyers are talking about. They're crazy. He's a 3D printer man. He's not a drone man.
I mean, he can 3D print the parts for a drone.
I forgot that was part of it. The lawyers had accused him of drone spying too. But during one of these events where he's like standing out in his yard, like being angry at a neighbor, he says, I'm just standing out there with my peach knife and my peach. You know that thing like wizened old countrymen do in movies where they're like cutting slices of an apple and they're like eating it off the knife?
Yeah.
You've seen like a Sam Elliott do that probably.
Like John Locke in Lost with the mango. Best mango he's ever had.
This guy's doing that thing but with a peach. And he says my peach knife. Like, that's an appliance.
I'm just standing there with my peach knife.
I'm just being my peach knife and my peach. Like, a peach knife, that thing we've all heard of and are aware of, the peach knife.
No, god damn it, don't touch that one. That's my peach knife.
That's the apple knife. Put it back. I need my peach knife. I don't remember where in the story that was. But anyway, back to the parade of Dobermans. However many Dobermans there were. 2 lawyers, I think the lawyers had a daughter, and at least 2 Dobermans walking around the neighborhood, showing off. He's mad, so he storms back home. He says that then a local woman hit him with his car.
During the parade?
During the parade of Dobermans. No, some woman was trying to get away from the Dobermans. I don't know. This may or may not have been Doberman related. It may have just happened at the same time as the Doberman parade. He says she hit him with his car, and then he got dizzy and he laid down.
I don't understand how and why you guys sat there the entire time just listening. Just be like, hey, we're like, obviously we didn't mean to come in here. We're trying to just make up something. Be like, we need to go. It was nice meeting you. I'm glad you have a peach knife. We're getting out of here.
He kept going, and this became so entertaining. We're like, how long is he gonna keep going? Okay, so this is the final part of his story. So he gets hit with the car and he gets dizzy and he lies down. And apparently whoever that woman was, she left. And he says, I was laying out there for like 30 minutes before finally somebody called my wife and they took me to the hospital, and it turned out I was having a heart attack.
Oh no.
And then he paused and he said, so you see why I'm nervous about people driving through my street when I don't know them. We're like, oh, yes, sir.
Do you own the street too? Like,
I don't know. And we've also
don't stand in the middle of the goddamn street then with your fucking peach knife.
And so I'm sitting on the passenger side of the car, which is on the side where his house is. And we can see like the dog is still in the yard, and there's like a woman and like a kid and like peering through the glass door of the front door. It's like his wife.
Peach knives.
It's like his wife and maybe his ages be like a grandbaby that they're watching, this like toddler. They're also like watching us like, what's he doing? Who's this car?
Yeah.
So he gets to the end of the story, and he started out real mad at us. And then he started telling us about the neighborhood, and he went on a long, long, windy path, and finally ended up in some sort of conclusion of, I got down, I had a heart attack, and now I'm nervous about people driving down my road. And he says, well, it's been nice to meet you. My name is Joshua Castle. It was really great talking to you. You guys should come back sometime.
What was his name? You got Robody.
His name, he says, he introduces himself by name, first name, last name, holds out his hand. My friend shakes it. My name is Joshua Castle. You guys should come back sometime. Give me a call. He rattles off his entire phone number for us.
Oh, wow.
Got it. He rattles off his phone number and he's like, come on back sometime. We can play Go together. Doesn't that sound fun? The Japanese game of Go. Well, you guys have a nice night. Going back inside.
That's awful. So I imagine all of his story like was one big long event. Like, he walks outside to angrily stare at the people chopping down the trees because he's mad that he
one big day
can't
for
build the barn. Yeah. Joshua's big day, right? And he goes outside and he's like, God damn them cutting down my trees, can't have the barn to teach the stem cell stuff to the goddamn kids. God damn it. And as he's doing that, the neighbors go, behold, y'all, Dobermans. And they have the Dobermans parade, and that goes down the street, and then someone gets distracted by the Dobermans and veers off the road, hits Joshua, who spins out of control, gets dizzy, falls over, has a heart attack, is laying there for half an hour for the he misses the whole parade.
I described to you, this is a short little street. There's no way anybody could be driving fast enough to hit him. That woman, whoever she was probably driving about the same speed we were, which is still, that's not good. But
I'm assuming he's standing there in the middle of the street,
very
being
well
like,
could have been. Who knows?
Damn it! I'm cutting down those trees and the stupid dogs. And no, there is no fucking drone. And like while that is happening, someone is sitting there like, what is going on? There's Dobermans, and they like hit him there. I imagine that all as one big scene.
Yes. And the fact that all of that happened, sandwiched by this complete 180 of, I don't want you guys to keep driving. I want you to back up and get out of here too. This is my name and phone number. Come on back and we'll play board games together.
We'll play Go next time.
And we just get out of there, and the second we are out of his sight, we burst out laughing. We're like, was that real? Did that just happen to us? And we get out of the neighborhood. We're like, we need to stop somewhere and absorb what happened. And we get to the parking lot of a dead Kmart. Funny. And we park, and we're like, okay, you got a recorder app on your phone. We have to record this. So we recap immediately everything that happened.
That's so funny.
So I have that audio somewhere.
If you find it, let me know.
Yeah. It was it was a wild time, and it's a really memorable story for me. I go on those nice neighborhood drives all the time. There's nothing I love more than just driving through a lush, well-off suburban neighborhood.
Yeah.
This is the one time somebody has come out and spoken to us, and it's that. It's a favorite story,
That's
which
awful.
is why I'm like, okay, if we're at a milestone episode, let me drag this thing out for you.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this momentous episode 50 of the Whatnauts Captain's Log. That certainly was a fantastic story to end it on. We will see you guys next week. I guess the little bit of housekeeping that I want to mention, we do have our Avengers Endgame spoiler cast up.
All 3 hours of it.
Yes, all 3 hours. That you can find that on our website, thewhatnauts.com, or if you search the Whatnauts in whatever podcast app you like, it is an episode of the Reactor Core, which is one of the other podcasts that we do. So go check that out. By time this goes public, we will also have our third exclusive, a Patreon exclusive episode of the review show. Do you want to tell them about that and what we did for that one?
We watched Shrek Retold, which is a YouTube project. You can go look this up. It is about an hour and a half long. It is the entirety of Shrek. Mm-hmm. You know, the green DreamWorks man.
The one that's like an onion.
That one, don't mistake him. Not the one who's like a parfait. The entire story of Shrek, the characters, the dialogue, the songs, everything is retold and chopped up into little bits and given to all kinds of different creators. There's live action actors, there's animation of all different kinds. The music is all entirely redone. The voices are redone. It is just this big, it's a jokey fan quilt of Shrek. It's a real experience. It was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to talk about.
Exactly. So that is on our Patreon for the $3 and above people on that. Also on the review show, we just covered season 1 of Castle Rock, which is a Hulu original show. So be on the lookout for that. That should be up. And coming up on the review show, we are going to be covering Brave.
Yeah.
The DreamWorks. No, Pixar.
Kyle.
I was Kyle. Like, it's Disney and DreamWorks. I was like, no, that's not it.
Okay, I understand the alliteration. This is a Pixar film from 2012. You remember.
Yes, that one. So that, I believe it is it. That is all. Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
I am at Yo Kyle Springer on both Twitter and Instagram. If you want to stay up to date with this show, we are on Twitter at The Whatnauts. Patreon.com/The Whatnauts is where you can support us. And for just $1 a month, you can get episodes early. And at the $3 tier, you can get those exclusive episodes. And we also do want to give a big thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier and up. So thank you to both Sam and Christine for helping us out and keeping the mics on. We appreciate you guys a lot. It helps us out a bunch, a ton to help us do what we do here. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll be back next week.
Close out old Big 50.
Exactly. We will see you guys next week. Adios.
Bye.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out that episode of The Captain's Log. If you liked it, go subscribe to our channel. There's a lot more where that came from. We also have other podcasts, so maybe go check out one of the videos down here. Might be the review show, might be the reactor core, might be another episode of The Captain's Log that you missed from weeks ago. Who knows? Check it out.